Welcome to this edition of On the Scene. I'm your host, Tim Kelly. Today's program, we're going to talk Suffolk Animal Care, talk about the adoption process and all the different services that they offer to our community. Stay tuned. Welcome back to On the Scene. Today we're going to be talking about the Suffolk Animal Care Facility and talking about all the great things that take place over there and sort of some of the things that you can get tapped into from learning more about animals, or really more importantly, pet adoptions. And today we have Lori Brittle, who is the animal shelter manager, going to talk about all these different topics. And Lori, thanks for being with us today. When we talk about adoptions through y'all, how does that process work? What do people need to have information-wise, and is there any kind of a waiting period? Because everybody's got different procedures, but how do y'all operate in that respect?
Right. So they definitely need their driver's license when they come to the shelter. Okay. What is the most difficult part is actually picking the pet that they want to adopt.
Right.
But once they make that decision, the actual process, the paperwork takes about 10 minutes, and it is $95 for dogs and $75 for cats. Yep. And that fee does include all the vaccines, the spay or neuter. And they may be able to take that pet home that very day if it has already been spayed or neutered.
Right.
And if not, then we'll schedule it ourselves, take the pet to the vet, have it spayed or neutered, and then they'll pick the pet up. So, you know, within a week, right, at the longest, they can usually take that pet home.
But do you have to be a Suffolk resident to adopt?
You do not.
You do not. Okay. And there's no additional fee if you're non-resident?
No, it's the same for everybody.
Got it. Okay, good deal. Now, when people come by, we'll talk about where you're located in hours in just a second or two, but the animals that they can kind of see and sort of, in a sense, touch and feel, so to speak, are all of them adoptable right then and there, or some maybe being held for a period of time? So, for example, you might see a great-looking dog, great-looking cat that you're very interested in, but is there any kind of, or do you kind of know these are adoptable now and these sort of kind of in a holding pattern or whatever?
At the Suffolk Animal Care Center,
right,
all the available dogs are the only ones that they can see.
Got it. Okay.
And the available cats. So the ones that are being on a stray hold are not up for anyone to view.
Got it.
So anything that they look at is up for adoption.
Got it. Now, and well, how long do y'all hold a stray? So if one of your officers are out in the field, they pick up a stray, they bring it in, how long is that animal held before it would be adoptable to be adopted out?
Generally 10 days. Okay. If the pet did have a collar on, then it's 12 days. And if there's any owner information as far as a microchip that we're trying to track down, then it's 21 days.
Got it. Okay. So because again, you want to give the actual owner a chance to come back in.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing, is we want them to get back to their rightful owner.
Of course. Reunite them, as the case would be. As far as learning what animals that you have currently there for adoption, what's the best way for people to find it other than coming to your facility itself?
They can look online, they can check Pet Finder, they can go on our Facebook page, which is the Suffolk Animal Care, and they can view the adoptable pets on there. Okay.
And y'all do a really good job at keeping up with that, and certainly if you have strays come in, that information is being put out there as well, because as we just said, you want to connect the animal with the owner so we get everybody reunited again, right?
Yeah. All strays are posted as soon as they come in, and all of the available dogs are kept up very, very current. As soon as they're adopted, we do try and take them off so that someone's not coming to the shelter to look at something that's no longer available.
Because I mean, I think if you check out your Facebook page, depending upon who's popped up there, you'll see a lot of interest there. Everybody's, and some of the messages that come back is still there, and sometimes no, but then again, that doesn't mean you don't have other great animals there for adoption. Right. So you might not find one, but there's always plenty of other ones that are there. So what would you recommend if someone, for example, lost a pet, in their neighborhood, or depending on where they lived here in the city of Suffolk? Should they contact y'all first, or maybe on the list, just to make sure that maybe it's already been turned in?
Always contact your local animal control. Right. It's amazing how many people don't even think to call. But not only that, your neighboring, we always, a lot of people live on the Portsmouth line or the Chesapeake line, so they should also call those.
Right.
Post them on Facebook. There's the, lost and found pets. Post them, make flyers.
Right. Get
walk
the word
the
out.
neighborhood, tell your neighbors, because a lot of times we find that, the neighbor down the road has put it in their garage just to keep it safe for a few days.
Sure. Yeah, I guess look close as well as far,
exactly,
depending on the circumstances.
Yes.
And I think that's a good tip you mentioned about the fact of neighboring communities that may have it as well, because like you said, if you're close to Portsmouth or some of the other places, or even maybe across the border in North Carolina, the dog or cat may have wandered down there somewhere, and there might be a different place that picked them up. So again, checking with everyone to make sure everybody's safe and sound, I guess, is the best thing. Well, we talked about coming to your facility to look at maybe, view one of the animals that are up for adoption. So where are y'all located, and what are your operating hours for when people can come by?
We are located at 124 Forest Glen Drive.
Okay.
And Monday through Friday, we're open 11 to 5.
Okay.
Now, there is an extended hour on Thursday. We are open till 6 to make it easier for those people who are working.
Right.
And then Saturday, we're open every Saturday from 11 to 4.
Okay, so pretty convenient over there, and a good location, pretty much relatively centralized, just right off downtown Suffolk, so easy to get to.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of dedicated men and women that work there as far as keeping all the animals safe and sound and taking very good care of them. I know certainly, you have your staff, your paid staff. But I know everybody wants to volunteer. Everybody wants to be near and help and get everybody situated. What's a way to get tapped into volunteering with Suffolk Animal Care? How can that be done? I know you, and I guess the follow-up to that as well is, high school students are maybe looking for volunteer hours and things like that. Is that something also that you can connect with, or how does that work in addition to maybe adults that want to volunteer?
Yes, there is an application that has to be filled out.
Okay.
And it does have to be notarized. There's a background check to be done.
Of course.
And once that's done, it takes about 2 weeks probably to run that. Then we will call and let them know that they're approved, and then they can come in for an orientation and training. You do have to be 13 years old to volunteer.
Okay.
And between the ages of 13 and 16, your guardian has to be with you at all times. So in other words, if the 13 or 16-year-old is bathing a dog, or 13 or 14-year-old is bathing a dog, the guardian has to be with them bathing the dog. But once you're 16, you can come in and volunteer as long as your guardian signs off on it. Okay. And then once you're 18 years old, you can come on your own. Okay. And we actually had 2 or 3 volunteers when I left just now, bathing dogs, and they come every week. They're very, very dedicated.
Yes. Yes, I think you find that with a lot of people that are sort of in the animal world, shall we say, whether you're a dog owner, a cat owner, or certainly just like the animals in general, but the fact that really dedicated and want to give back as much as they can, because I mean the animals need the care and need the love. So that's, I think, what a lot of people do there, not only with your paid staff, but again with the volunteer staff, and that's great that people can tap into and help out in their community like they do. So again, I'm glad y'all are there to offer that resource. What other resources are offered through Suffolk Animal Care if they come to visit? I know you have some meet and greet rooms. You have, the cats in their little area. They're certainly going to keep the cats and dogs separate. But what other services do you offer actually through Suffolk Animal Care if people come to the facility?
We do have traps that if someone is trying to trap some wildlife, if they're having problems with something in their garden or any type of wildlife, we do have traps. It does not cost anything. Okay. It's kind of like a library book. They just check it out. Got it. They can keep it for a week, and then if they catch something, an animal control officer will actually go out to their house and pick it up, or they can bring it back to the shelter if they'd like. Got it. We sell city licenses there as well. And obviously we do adoptions. Sure. People come to file lost reports. If they've lost their pet, they'll actually come to the shelter a lot of times and fill that out. Okay. Or if they find an animal, they'll bring the stray there or call an officer to come there and pick it up. So. What would you recommend if someone finds a stray animal for themselves? I mean, whether they're in a small community or maybe a little further out in sort of some of the southern parts of Suffolk, should they keep the animal? Should they contact y'all? What's the best way to do? The best thing to do is contact us. Okay. Because you figure, I mean, it is an animal that is probably foreign to you. I mean, certainly if you know it's your neighbor's dog or something like that, you could take it back. We know that. But if it's a dog you're not familiar with, I think it's probably just better for the animal safety as well as your own to basically get in contact with you guys to kind of help facilitate the process of getting the animal returned, right? Yes. Very good. And you talked about chipping earlier. Y'all have sensors that can read to see if there's a chip there. Correct. But I think it's a good time to note that if you have an animal that's chipped, make sure you're updating the information with the company that provides the service, because if you've got old information in there, whether it's your contact information or perhaps the animal you adopted it from somewhere, you want to make sure that's current, because it's really not a whole lot. It's not a whole lot of good if you can't locate exactly who the dog or the cat or it connects to. Correct. That's correct. And we scan everything that comes in. That's one of the first things we do. Got it. And a lot of times the officers will even scan them in the field. They each have scanners on their truck. Right. So yeah, we scan that animal as soon as it comes in, and we'll start tracking it down. So we love it when something is current and we can get it home that very day. Indeed. You mentioned licenses earlier. Good time to remind everybody as far as what the requirements are in the city of Suffolk when you have a dog, as far as to have it licensed with the city. What are the regulations, the basic regulations when it comes to making sure that gets done? So everything that is over 4 months of age, or dog-wise, has to have a city license. Got it. And that is a yearly thing. So it's due every March the 1st. And you can purchase a yearly for $10 if the dog is not spayed or neutered, $5 if it is spayed or neutered, or you can purchase a lifetime for $50. Okay. Now they can do that through your office? Yes.
And they can also do that at the treasurer's
They
office
can
as
do
well.
that at the treasurer's office. So there's several
Oh, wow,
places
okay.
that they can get the city license.
Make it convenient for them to do, but it's an annual license.
It is an annual.
And then
unless they do, they can do the lifetime. That's
correct.
something new that the city is offering.
Got it. But if you do the annual, correct me if I'm wrong, you will get a notice mailed to you to say, hey, it's time to renew.
Yes.
Correct.
So again, they should get a notice in the mail.
Got it. Okay. Very good. Very good. As far as donations, and I'm talking about food and supplies. Say, for example, people overbought, or maybe they don't have an animal anymore and they still have these items around. What are some of the things that y'all will take, and what's the best way to make that happen? Because again, you don't want to have to basically get something and then you're just putting it right in the garbage can, but you want to make sure you're getting things that certainly the staff can utilize to take care of the animals that are there.
And that actually depends on the time of year.
Okay.
So, we're coming up on spring season, so we will have kittens coming in. So obviously for the next several months, kitten formula, kitten chow, anything to do with kittens. But we are usually able to use most of what is donated. There is a list on our website that lists, what we use. We are pretty specific about the kinds of dog food that we use.
Right.
We only feed one kind just because we don't want to have upset stomachs.
Makes sense.
But we absolutely will take anything, and if it's a dog food that we don't feed our dogs, we'll give it to someone in need.
Right.
So somebody who has fallen upon hard times and they're going to have to surrender their pet,
Sure.
We're trying to not let that happen. So we'll
course.
try and help them out.
Very good. What about medications? If you have something that, I would assume that's probably not something you deal with?
We don't generally want any types of medications, like medicated shampoo or something like that maybe, but no. If it was a medication that was specifically for that pet, then we're not able to use that.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. With adopting, I'll go back to that just for a second. Any recommendations you have to someone who perhaps has not adopted, but I know you had an animal before. And again, the theory of, it'll be great. But I mean, animals take care.
Yes,
they need care. They can't do a lot of things for themselves. What are some things for people to think about who have never owned an animal before they come in to do the adoption, that they need to think about as far as either dog or cat proofing their home, or just preparing themselves for the responsibility of pet ownership? Because it definitely is a major responsibility in that respect.
It is. It's always good to do some research online, just to find out, a little bit about, what breed you're looking for, because certain breeds require a lot of exercise. I think the cattle dog is one of the biggest ones that people think, it's really cute, I'm going to take this home in my apartment, and it just doesn't work out for them. And it's sad for the person and the animal as well.
Correct.
But so do a little bit of research on your breed, and then make sure that your lifestyle is going to be able to accommodate that pet. So if you're working, 8 hours a day and you can't come home to turn something out for the bathroom, you might be better off with a cat in a litter box or something like that, because that is a long time for a dog to stay inside without any, time outside. But just do a little bit of research, make sure that your house is ready before you come to the shelter to adopt that pet, because chances are you may be taking that pet home that very day. So if you choose a cat, you'll need a litter box, get your food, collar, leash, and bring that with you to the shelter.
Do y'all, in the adoption process, do y'all kind of talk with the people that are possibly adopting to make sure, I would assume that, as much as you can to kind of counsel them to make sure they know what they're kind of getting into and what you know about the breed or maybe know about that individual animal, to make sure that as much as you can tell is a match?
We do. And a lot of times people will come in and say, well, I'm looking for this, and we kind of know in the back of our mind, which dogs may work for them or which cats may work, because some cats don't like other cats. So if they're looking for a cat to be their friend of one they already have, we'll steer them away from the ones that just prefer to be alone.
Gotcha. Now, if people have another pet in their home and want to make sure, you talked about compatibility, do you offer the opportunity for people to bring that animal in to sort of do the meet and greet, or how do y'all structure that?
We do. We absolutely do, and we kind of suggest that they do. Just because one dog gets along with another dog doesn't mean that, when they get home on their home turf, their dog is going to accept it. So we always say, bring your pet down, even a cat, if you want to. But we do. We have a meet and greet. We'll let them, kind of introduce them outside through the fence line. And if it seems to be going well, we'll bring them inside and introduce them. Sometimes you can tell from the get-go that it is just not going to work. A lot of people come there and they think, my dog wants a friend. And they get there and they find out that their dog does not want a friend.
Or at least that friend, if the case would be,
Exactly.
And certainly,
and that's something that you want to find out before you
yes, you do.
take that pet home.
Yes. You don't want to come back and you walk in all clean and everything, then you come back and everything is just,
Exactly.
please help me here. So we want to avoid those situations as best we can. What type of outreach do y'all do in the community? I know there are adopt-a-thons that y'all partner with the Humane Society to do, and certainly take some of the animals that you have there in your facility out and about. Not all of them, of course, but some. But what type of outreach do y'all do in the community?
So we go to the PetSmart in, in North Suffolk and Chesapeake Square, and we go there twice a month.
Right.
Or two. We go there, to one place,
Right.
Usually on the same weekend.
Correct, right.
So we try to go monthly. And we also work with other local shelters, advertising, special events, try and educate the public as much as we can about homeless animals.
Right.
We participate in the Mutt Strut. And then occasionally we'll have the farmer's market will want us to take animals there. And
Right.
anytime we can get them out and have a little exposure,
Right.
we like to take advantage of that.
Very good, very good. And as far as with the adoptions in the field, any different dynamics as far as, because I mean, if you have an animal that was found or even if it was turned over to your facility, I mean, that animal is getting used to a lot of different people, a lot of different environments. So do you find it a little difficult sometimes? And I guess y'all pretty much know the ones that might do better, taking them out of the facility and bringing them somewhere else different, but to put them, I hate to use the phrase on display, but you know what I'm saying, to kind of interact. You got a lot of people coming around. It's just a lot for them to kind of process sometimes, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It can be overwhelming, and we found that PetSmart, a lot of times, it can be a very stressful time for
Right,
them.
right.
We're only there for about 2 hours, and that's about all they can handle. The biggest thing, other people are bringing their pets in.
Right.
And some people just, don't know personal space, and they just rush up to the dog, and it is overwhelming
Yeah.
for them.
But again, I mean,
But then some just enjoy being out.
that's right. I was going to say, you
Yeah.
have some that be a little more social than other
Yeah.
ones, just like people,
And a lot
I
of
mean,
times
so.
people will pick toys and buy
Right.
for the pet,
Yeah.
A lot of times the pet will pick their own toy, and then somebody will go buy it for them.
Gotcha. But anything else you want to maybe make people aware about when it comes to just general pet ownerships? Any tips that maybe you can offer? We talked about, again, when adopting, kind of preparing yourself, preparing your environment, knowing what your kind of schedule is. In that sense, you talk about people that work and can't make it home, and that animal needs to get out to take care of some things.
Right.
You're not giving them an opportunity where maybe, like you said, a cat might be better than a dog, or pairing animals. Just anything else you can offer in that genre when it comes to just owning a pet in general?
Yeah, I mean, it's a financial responsibility. So make sure that you're financially able to care for that pet, because it is your responsibility, and it should be a lifelong commitment. If it's something that you're only planning to have for 6 months, then probably, pet ownership is not for you.
Right. Very good, very good. Well, Laurie, I appreciate your time with us today to talk about this and all the good work that you and your staff over at Suffolk Animal Care are doing, again, to help animals find homes in our community, and certainly as much that you can, pair up the right people with the right animals and get everybody together on the same page, and then everybody wins in that type of situation.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
Well, Laurie, again, thanks for your time
All right.
today. Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
That would do it for this edition of On the Scene. I'm your host, Tim Kelly. We'll see you next time.